Good day, lads. The Pope made some very controversial statements about migrants and refugees, and we're going to get to that. But since this is a video dealing with foreigners, I thought I would share with you some more about the place where I live, because this also kind of applies. If you've been following this channel, you know I don't live in the United States of America. And a type of cuisine that's gotten very popular in recent years here is shawarma. If you don't know what shawarma is, basically they put some meat and some vegetables if you want. I don't get it with the vegetables, but they put some meat and then they wrap it up in a piece of pita bread. It's kind of like a burrito, and then they put some sauces on it. And there's this shawarma place that's open late at night. I go there almost every night late. And it's just like about a block away. It's kind of across the street from the building that I live in. And this past week, I went there for my usual late night snack of shawarma. I mean, this stuff is so good. Like, especially, it's really the sauce they put on it. This spicy sauce. Oh, man. That's why I have to go there every night. I feel like something's not right almost if I don't go there nightly. But I just love the stuff. So I went there this past week, and there was a British guy there ordering shawarma too, and we got to talking. This guy, he was so super drunk, and I don't mean to reinforce any negative stereotypes about the drunk Englishman, but he was from England, and we had a fairly nice conversation, even though he was extremely drunk. And then the next night, I went back to the shawarma place, and the guy working there, he says to me, "That guy you were talking to last night, is he also an American?" And I said, "No, actually, he's from Britain." And the guy working there, he says to me, "If he's from Britain, how does he know how to speak English?" I swear that happened. That's a true story, but I found it very amusing, so I wanted to share that with you. Now, moving on to the main point of Pope Francis. This is something that I saw from Pat Buchanan on Facebook. He shared this, so let's take a look. It's an article from Breitbart, and I personally don't read Breitbart. But like I said, I just clicked because Pat Buchanan shared it. And Pope Francis says God has a particular concern for foreigners. And here you see Pope Francis in the middle of a group of Africans. And it says, in Rome, Pope Francis celebrated the world of migrants and refugees in the Vatican on Sunday, insisting on the so-called moral duty to welcome the stranger with the compassion exhibited by God himself. So, basically, you don't need to read the article. I'll give you a quick rundown of what it said. It said that Pope Francis is opening the Vatican, and his personal apartment in the Vatican, he's going to share with several young African men. In fact, he's even going to share his personal bed. That's how welcoming Pope Francis is. And I think it's amazing. I know a lot of you guys that watch this channel, you're right-wingers and you're very nationalistic. And I used to have some of those tendencies myself. But man, after seeing what Pope Francis is doing, I'm so inspired. I'm going to take some in, and I recommend that you all take in at least 3 to 4 refugees, each and every one of you. No, I'm kidding. Of course Pope Francis isn't going to share his personal apartment with any of these guys. It's all talk. And a lot of people, they're getting very worked up about this and going, "Oh my God, you see what a sham Catholicism is? The leader of Catholicism is evil. Turn away from that. Oh, look at what's happening to the world. What's going to happen to the future?" Well, I'm telling you, I'm making this video to tell you, you don't have to react that way, because this is no cause for concern. In terms of Catholics, every Catholic that I've ever met that has an IQ of at least 100 that's actually still a devout Catholic, they know the Pope is evil. They don't like the Pope. I was speaking to one Catholic one time about, so what do you think about Pope Francis? What do you think should be done or could be done about Pope Francis? And he said, "Look, don't even worry about it, man. This isn't the first bad pope we've had. Throughout the history of the church, there's been bad popes, and there's going to be some more in the future. You just got to ride it out." And this is not encompassing. So Catholics themselves, most of the intelligent ones that are actually paying attention, they all are very aware. And this is also another good sign, because it's just the Pope tipping his tipping his hand. He's showing his true colors and just reinforcing things that people already know. It's like a reminder. So don't worry about that. And number two, what I want you to keep in mind is, now what the Pope is saying, there is actually some truth in it. We should be welcoming foreigners, absolutely, and refugees. Certainly there are definitely legit refugees, and we should be treating these people good as we should be treating other people well. So keep in mind, there is certainly truth in what the Pope is saying. Now, of course, there is a huge difference between foreigners and invaders. A lot of people, left-wing people, they like to twist the Bible, and they like to refer to that verse of the Bible that talks about how you're supposed to treat foreigners well. Keep in mind, a foreigner is actually more of a visitor. And that's very different than someone that's coming to invade and take over and change your culture or wear on your resources. There's a key concept in Christianity. We're supposed to help people, but we're not supposed to help people at the expense of hurting someone else. For example, maybe there's someone down on their luck that really needs money for something, and if I were to give them money, that would be a very good thing. But if I were to get that money by going and sticking a gun in someone's face and robbing them and taking their wallet, well, that's still a sin. But keep in mind, we should be treating foreigners, even migrants and refugees, we should be treating them good. Even, I would say, illegal aliens, because the bottom line is, it's not their fault. They're only doing what they can get away with, as most people would. And if you look at, certainly in the United States, the politicians there, the majority of, probably 3/4 of the politicians in the United States, they're actually encouraging illegal immigration. Certainly, all Democrats seem to be 100% open borders, and half of Republicans are probably half of open borders. And this was something that was exposed. I was in the United States on vacation last year, and this is when that big controversy started coming out where they were claiming that Trump is putting children into jail cells and all that nonsense. And there were so many Republicans that were speaking out against it, because the reality is they want open borders too for the corporations that they serve, so they have cheap labor. So it really exposed a lot of that. But the bottom line is, you can't blame the actual people. You got to blame the government, the politicians, the leaders, and you got to hold them accountable. And now, another point, a third and last point that I want to, and this is a much more complex point, you can't just look at Christianity as one guy or a representative, as even someone like that really is supposed to be an official representative, such as the Pope. He's the leader of the entire church, the church that Jesus started himself. But you can't look at one guy and say, well, I can't be a Christian because of that guy. You got to look into it deeper. And I want you to keep something in mind, that God is good. Keep that in mind. God is good. But here's my question for you. When is God good? Is he good occasionally? Is God good sometimes? No, he's good all the time. And a lot of the times, as mere humans and our sense of time, we don't understand this because we have our time and we want things to happen according to our schedule. Well, God doesn't go according to our schedule. And me personally, I've had some absolutely incredible, amazing blessings in the past 2 or 3 months of my life that are just absolutely incredible. There's goals I had, dreams I had for my entire life, and I was actually at the point where I was just saying, well, I guess it's not in the cards. It's not going to happen. And I actually gave up. And now, all of a sudden, I'm seeing all these incredible blessings. This has been happening in the last 2 to 3 months, so this is really, I think, just the beginning. Things are even going to get more and more. But there's a couple reasons why this happened, and one of the key concepts that I want you to take away is, and you've probably heard this said before, good things always happen when we least expect them. And the reason that's true is because we have no resistance to it. We're not putting any pressure on ourselves, much like I kind of gave up on a lot of things. I said, just forget about it. we have no resistance, and that opens everything up, and that's when the good things come. So good things always come when we least expect it. And now the other point, and this relates to God, as I was saying, on his time. I think that God made me wait a long time and made me go through a lot of disappointments, a lot of bumps in the road in my life, because he was humbling me. He was beating me down in a way that I needed to be beaten down. So when he decides to let me have blessings, and he could have let me have these at any time. He didn't have to make me wait over a decade to see some of these blessings, or more, well over a decade to see some of these. He didn't have to make me wait, but I think that he knew that I needed certain humblings, and he needed to even when I think I've been humbled to myself, it's like, no, you need some more. I'm going to beat you down a little bit more. But ultimately, this is going to make you a better person, and you're going to appreciate it better. And when it comes to this concept of time, like I said, our time, something you need to understand about God, at least the Christian God, is time in our worldly sense doesn't apply to God. He's beyond the spectrum of time. And I was listening to something very interesting yesterday. I was listening to a seminar, and the speaker, he said that you can always tell how someone thinks about time by asking them a very simple question. And that question is, how much money do you make? If you ask someone that makes minimum wage, how much money do you make? They might say, well, I make $7 an hour. So you can see they're thinking in very short term. They're thinking of time in units of hours. And then maybe someone else you ask, so how much money do you make? Well, I make $200 a day. Well, that person's thinking of time in a daily sense. And then maybe you ask someone that's kind of a professional and they get a salary. So how much money do you make? And they might tell you when they get their paycheck. Well, I make $2,000 every 2 weeks, or I make $4,000 a month. So they're thinking in terms of a couple weeks at a time or a month at a time. And then when you start to move up the ladder, you'll ask someone else, so how much money do you make? Well, I make $500,000 a year. So they're thinking in terms of a year. But he said that when you ask the really super, super rich people, how much money do you make? They say, well, they think of time differently. They think of time in terms of several years, because for some years they might make a huge profit. Then they might have a couple of years where they make nothing or even make a bit of a loss. But they understand that over the course of their lifetime, it all kind of averages out. And some of the really super rich people, they think of wealth in terms of generational wealth. They come from old money, and they want their descendants to have lots of money. They're building up something for them. So they're really thinking of time over the course of several different generations, actually. And we know that's true, especially when you think about certain families in this world. But when it comes to God, time doesn't go in terms of a linear fashion like that. It doesn't apply to him. And ultimately, when it comes to religion, Christianity, yes, we need help in the here and now. But ultimately, it's about eternity and beyond in terms of ways that we can't comprehend. So what I want you to do is I know you see a lot of these stories and it creates a reaction. That's what they're designed to do. They're to get you angry and excited, so you have to click on. But the first thing I want you to do is just relax, breathe, and remember that God is good. Not sometimes, not when he feels like it, but all the time, even if we don't realize it ourselves, and we have those times where he seems like he's a million miles away and he doesn't care. So keep that in mind. Don't get excited, relax, and go outside and enjoy your day, and you can get away from some of this stuff.